It is always a sad day when the world loses somebody that brought so much to it. And for all of us film fans and horror film fans in particular, loses somebody that gave us a movie that meant everything to some of us. So, this video today is in remembrance of William Friedkin. We're going to talk about his masterpiece. What's up, everybody? Nick here at the Lost River Drive-In, and I did not intend on doing this video. This was not something that I had even thought about doing today. It's kind of perfect, though. It's pouring down rain. It's been raining all day. Just kind of a dreary, stay-in kind of day. After the news of the passing of William Friedkin, I felt compelled to do this. This was a video that I was going to do probably in October leading up to the release of the newest movie, but I just felt there's no better time than now to talk about this film and this filmmaker in particular. And this video is just about why I believe The Exorcist is the greatest horror film of all time, and what it meant to me, what it continues to mean to me, and what it meant for film in general. What is too often forgotten in today's landscape, where we're oversaturated with demonic possession movies and paranormal movies, is that The Exorcist started it all in 1973. Now, The Exorcist was a really big deal back then. This wasn't about a horror movie. This was an experience. People from all over the world went out to see this movie. The church, almost demanded that their congregations see this movie because it was educational. To them, they were saying you need to really see the evils of Satan and what demons can do to you. And in 1973, that was really taboo. We didn't have a movie like that, especially a movie that centered around a little girl and everything that she goes through, and really just truly seeing the evils of demonic possession. Now, this video is not going to be about whether or not you believe in that kind of stuff. This is just from the perspective of the general audience and the filmmakers at the time of this movie being created and coming out. It was a big deal. You almost felt like it was a rite of passage. When it comes to Catholicism and Christianity, it was like, 1973's Passion of the Christ. I remember when the Passion of the Christ came out, growing up Christian, it was almost like, even though this is rated R, you have to see this. I was a kid, and my mom let me watch that movie because she felt like it was something I had to see. It was something you had to experience. It was almost like, historical. It was to educate you. The Exorcist was the same way. And I think that in and of itself, being such a cultural phenomenon, already set this movie up, no matter how the movie was, to live on for generations. Thankfully, for William Friedkin and for everybody else involved, and for us as people that got to watch this movie and continue to experience it, it is an all-timer. It's a classic. In my opinion, it's the greatest horror film of all time. And there's a multitude of reasons for that. The Exorcist isn't a movie like a lot of these modern demonic possession movies that is really all about the spooky jump scare and, oh wow, look at that visual effect. No, The Exorcist is a drama. It's a family drama about a struggling single mom and her sweet, innocent, unassuming daughter living in this house. Her mom is an actress. They're having parties. They're well liked. Everything's good. Reagan has everything she could ever need. And then one day she decides to play with a spirit board to talk to spirits, or in her words, her imaginary friend, Captain Howdy. And that's really what starts it all. And what unfolds throughout this movie is a genuinely terrifying tale of demonic possession of an innocent little girl and how it fractures this family and tests your faith. And while all of this is going on, you've also got another story, maybe even the main story of this movie, of a priest who's lost his way, who feels like he's almost close to no longer believing in God, no longer believing that any of this is real, that God actually cares. And so his entire journey and his plot throughout this movie is being tested, testing his faith, and having to come to terms with, holy shit, not only is this real, but I'm facing the absolute worst of it. There's really no better way to shake your faith and test it than that. And those two plots coinciding for a climax that is unforgettable just creates a movie that is something that you could never, I don't think nowadays, cook up in a lab. Nobody could write a movie like this again. Nobody could put a movie out like this that would have this impact and cultural significance like The Exorcist did. And for that reason and that reason alone, it belongs in the greatest of all time conversation. But why I think it is the greatest of all time after all of that is because the effectiveness in those plots and in this story is only hammered home by the performances, by the camera work, by the dialogue, by the absolute scene-stealing moments, whether it's Linda Blair, whether it's Ellen Burstyn, Max von Sydow, no matter who it is, they just bring it. They bring it, and you feel this. If this was half-baked, if their performances were half-baked, if they weren't totally invested in it, it just wouldn't resonate the same way. See, the thing about this movie is when I think about why The Exorcist is so scary, it's never a jump scare. It's never a moment that made me go like, oh, spooky ghost. Jump scares have their place in horror, and there are a lot that can be effective. And aside from a scene in the attic for a quick shot, there's really not much in the way of jump scares in this movie. The fear and the terror in this movie is created through the performances, through what's on the page, through the dedication by these actors in just giving their all to make you really believe this. Whether it's the crucifix scene with Reagan, whether it's the head spinning scene with Reagan, whether it's some of the lines of dialogue from Pazuzu to try to taunt those around him. It's brilliant. It's absolute brilliance. I've gone back and forth many times, and you guys have seen it, and it's all jokingly with Christian about The Exorcist 3. And I love Exorcist 3. I think it's a great movie. I think it's really the only worthy sequel in this entire series. But there's just something about this movie that I'm just like, as great as that movie is, I don't think it touches the primal terror that this movie brings. I just don't think, also, I don't think it's as emotionally investing. I don't think it hits you to your core as much. There's just something about this movie. And having said all of that, having rambled so much about all of those things, about why this movie is so effective at what it does, you first have to turn to William Friedkin. Did he have some unorthodox ways sometimes to get performances out of people? Absolutely. But a lot of the greats did, and times were different 50, 60 years ago. It's not an excuse, but it's just to say a director back then is not directing the same way they are now. And if they are now, well, some lawsuits are probably going to be coming your way. But William Friedkin was great with actors. He was great with shot composition. He was great with making things feel real and lived in, and making the audience feel like they're experiencing it. The greatest compliment that I can give to The Exorcist, at over 2 hours long and being a drama, one, it's not boring in the slightest at all. And two, it doesn't look like you're watching a movie. It doesn't feel like you're watching a movie. You feel like you're there. You feel like you're living through it. There are so many moments in this movie that I can clearly see, oh, John Carpenter absolutely got influence from this guy. Absolutely. And that's the greatest compliment you can give a director, is imitation. It's flattery. William Friedkin constructed a movie that was so brilliantly written and directed and acted and just composed in every sense of the word, not literally music, just the composition of this movie top to bottom is flawless. The Exorcist, in my opinion, is the greatest horror movie of all time. Halloween is my favorite, but nothing will ever touch this movie. Ever. I think I will go to my grave not even questioning if this is the greatest horror movie of all time. And I feel like that's the argument you have to have with yourself. Because a lot of people will concede that The Exorcist is one of the greatest horror films of all time. So if you think a movie is better than The Exorcist, are you willing to say that that movie's the greatest horror film of all time? Because that's the bar you're putting it on. You know, that's the pedestal. Are you really willing to say that? Or are we being prisoner of the moment? When you go back and you watch this movie, you can't not be affected by every single thing I have laid out, and so much more in this movie. This movie's just incredible. So to William Friedkin, and I mean, obviously, you know, obviously never going to see this, but definitely wasn't going to see it beforehand. Thank you. Thank you for giving us this. Thank you for this film. Thank you for bringing William Peter Blatty's words to life in such a magnificent way. Thank you for the reverence that you had for the material and giving it your all. And thank you for creating the first horror movie I ever watched, the first thing that ever scared me in life, and the greatest horror movie of all time. You will be sorely missed, but you will live on through your work, particularly The Exorcist.